It's Grace Redman. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Real Talk, where I get to have real life, raw conversations with incredible people from my circles and communities who've overcome challenges and created amazing. Today, my incredible guest is Robert Jweinat. Robert is a California attorney, entrepreneur, and San Ramon City Council member. He is the founder of Jweinat Law Group, where he advises startups, businesses, and families on corporate, real estate, and estate planning matters. Alongside his legal practice, Robert is building legal tech tools designed to help professionals use AI responsibly and efficiently in their work. His interests sit at the intersection of law, technology, and public service, and he frequently speaks about the future of legal practice, AI adoption, and how technology can expand access to high-quality legal services. Please help me welcome Robert Jweinat.
Hi, Grace.
How are you?
Fantastic.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me. You have a lot of amazing things going on.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. Very fortunate.
Yeah. Yes. So tell us a little bit. I know that you recently got on the San Ramon City Council. What inspired you to take that, path?
Yeah, I've been on city council for about a little over a year. I was elected in a contested election, which was really, it was very awesome. It was very cool.
Great.
Having my name on the ballot, and on the first page you see, the presidential election, and on the second page you see my name and a few other candidates that are running. It was something that I've wanted to do. Something that when I bought my home and raising my family in the community, I wanted to take a bigger hand in the community and how I raise my family and how how local law and helping make an impression for those next generations within the community. And because the San Ramon's changing. When it first started out back in the 80s, it was only 10,000 residents. Now it's almost 100,000. So
wow.
Yeah, so it's a growing city. It's a growing city, and there's a lot of responsibility. And I just wanted the challenge. One day I was reading the article in Nextdoor, and they say, "Hey, you have a week left to submit your application, and you have to get 30 signatures." And I said, "I think I can do this." And then one thing led to another. I started that, and they said, "Well, now you have to go campaign." And so putting signs on, and I remember trying to pull money just to get things started, and I think I came 80 to 90% short of what what the other candidate did, which made me feel proud because everything I've done was grassroots. It was a grassroots campaign. I knocked on almost 3,000 doors.
Wow.
So it was, and I think that's the part that I fell in love with was, can I do this? Can I, if I put my mind to it, can I do it? And that was going through my head, really. So.
Well, I mean, I know we've spoken before, and you've been grassroots from the beginning. Since the time you graduated high school, you've put yourself through college, you've bought your own home. And so you've always been grassroots. So I just heard you say, you put it in your mind, like, can I do this? Mm-hmm. From the time you started out of high school, kind of paying your way through everything, was that the mindset you had? Were you challenging yourself each time?
It had to be, because it was one of those things where, okay, I want a car. Okay, well, what's stopping me from getting a car? Money. Well, what's stopping me from getting money? Work. How am I going to get work? I got to go get a job. And so in that mindset where it wasn't, oh, I can't get a car. So I didn't immediately just think, oh, I can't do this. This can't be done. Okay, I have to try. I have to put my name out there. I have to get going. And the first job I had really was working at UPS. I would load the back of the trucks ever since high school, and working my parents' restaurant and delis, etc. Working odd jobs just to scrape enough money. And then I started working late nights at UPS in San Ramon, loading the back of the trucks, and then it was a lot of fun. And that's what kind of I thought, wow, I did this step, and I guess I could accomplish the next phase, and then the next phase, and the next phase after that. But the first thing was the car. I always wanted to buy my own car. That was my first.
So you reversed engineered it. You said, okay, I want, instead of saying I can't or I won't, you reversed engineered it. You said, I'm going to have a car. That means I, need a job. That means I need to find a job. And then you just did it.
Yes.
So was there a time that you faced a challenge where you wanted to accomplish something and you went after it, yet it just, you weren't able to, capture it right away? Was there a time that you felt like you wanted to just give up? What did that look like, and how'd you get over that?
Boy, there was so many things, and I haven't given up on anything that I wanted to pursue, even now. But yeah, there was a moment where after I graduated law school, the bar was tough, and after a couple of times, I gave it a rest, and I decided, I got to get on with my life, and friends, family, oh, just give up. Oh, just give up. You're getting older. It's not going to help. Just give up. And I transitioned from law as working as a clerk and working as an intern, et cetera. And I started going into working for corporations in business and sales. And that's when I started to say, you know what, I'm going to, in the same mindset, I was introduced by my brother-in-law to a friend at a startup. I had no idea about sales, zero. I've never sold anything, so I didn't know. And
that's amazing that you've never sold anything. You just went into tech sales and you killed it.
I was fortunate because, and I think what I was fortunate there was I accept what I don't know. And I think that's the difference, is when you accept what you don't know, it's a freeing moment where you're like, hey, I don't know. So I'm open to coaching. I'm open to advice. I know there are some men that I know who growing up are like, I don't need that advice. I'm 30 years old. I've figured out the world. That was never true. And when I look at those folks and I look where they're at compared to where I'm at today, yeah, it was a grind, but I'm glad I stuck with it, and I stuck to my ethics and my morals, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna listen. Even my mentor was a young man who was 6 years younger than me. 6 years younger than me, mind you. I should have had an ego. I graduated law school. Of course, I should have had an ego, but it wasn't going to get me anywhere. It wasn't going to get me anywhere. So I had to accept that. And my wife was 8 months pregnant with our first child. So you have to accept the responsibility there too.
Right. And again, I appreciate your mindset and how you talked about even others who care for you shared, maybe it's time to give up, and you didn't give up on yourself. I think that speaks volumes, because it's so easy for us to give up and just say, that's not the right path, make that excuse, but you didn't give up. You know what? The other day, someone said, you can't fail if you don't quit.
Yeah. I believe that. I believe that. Yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
And so
go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, just to close, I've had every opportunity present to me to quit. And it was, those opportunities where you get comfortable. And I think when you get too comfortable, people will say that's the enemy. It's not the enemy, but when you get too comfortable, you don't progress.
Yes.
You don't progress, and you don't build that muscle memory to progress, because I've gone through so many. And I never liked playing the victim card. I've been fired from jobs. I've been, you name it. Because of my Middle Eastern background,'t been told, hey, you can't get hired at this firm, or you look a certain way, et cetera. So I've had to deal with those stereotypes as well. But it can't stop you, right?
No, it can't stop you, because then there's going to be another door that's going to open for you.
Yeah.
and I've experienced that. And again, it's resilience. It's okay. I'm not going to play the victim card. Those things happen. There is discrimination out there for who you are. And I go to that next door, just like you have. And, it really cultivates your resilience and your ability to take rejection. I think as an entrepreneur, our ability to move through rejection every day is key.
I agree. It builds that muscle.
Yes.
It builds that extra muscle that we're not born with. I mean, we were raised in a home, comforted by family, and you're free to make a mistake. But the difference with making a mistake while you were growing up, I faced the consequences early for making a mistake. So I wasn't told, oh, what you did was wrong. It was the consequence of the mistake, and I had to face it, and I had to deal with that mistake, whether it's in school or in life, et cetera. So I had to figure it out. But
yes,
I think it was that was what helped the resiliency factor, was because I knew ahead of time either the consequences were and what I had to do and weigh my options, et cetera. But I went for it. Every time I went for something, I went for it.
I love that. I love that about you. And I love how you brought up consequences, because I had a coach one time tell me that she's never met anyone who was so aware of consequences. And being aware of those consequences is what motivated me to make the decisions and take the action to get to where I wanted to go, because I knew if I didn't do this, then this was the consequence. And I don't want the consequence. I'm more addicted to the result than, I guess, you know what I mean? I'm addicted to the result and have no interest in the consequence.
There are so many people who, and I'm genuinely happy for a lot of people, however they succeed, whether they succeed by luck, whether they succeed by perseverance. I genuinely want people around me and people to succeed, because there's an energy that comes with it. And if people are successful, I'm successful. I don't want to be around miserable people.
100%.
But I find a common denominator around people who are miserable, who are going on through things, et cetera. And those that give up either because of external forces that beyond their control.
Sure, that's absolutely legitimate.
Totally understand. And there are those that just give up because they're like, I'm not, why? And it always starts off this way. Oh, this guy, he got so lucky, and this guy, he has this and he has that. Well, what did it take for that person to get to that point? And when I look at these success stories, the person who, there's maybe 1% in the world where anybody ever just falls backwards into something and they fall into a pot of gold. I look at, Jeff Bezos' story, right? This wasn't somebody that was just lucky. I mean, he just didn't wake up and say, oh, here's Amazon. Right. If you look at the early pictures, et cetera, was very, very, very young, very he had stacks of books, and, he had a cardboard box at Amazon on it. I mean, now look at him. It's a great story. But yeah, I mean, there are people who really, the ones that work the hardest. I'm not interested in in where they are today. I'm really interested in how they got to that point, because I learned so much from how they got there.
100%. I agree with you. And what I've learned in my study of success is the people that are most successful are doing what others are not willing to do. You're committed, consistent to the boring habits that you're doing every day, and they're not fun. But they compound, and that's how we get to where we're going. What do you think is a common denominator for successful people?
I think it's perseverance. I think people who don't make up bullshit or excuses. I think people who just accept the reality that they're in, and folks that lean on the support that they have, reach out for help, reach out to their community, reach out to others for help. And I fell into this trap really early on. Really early. It's an embarrassing story, but I fell in this trap early on where I thought I knew everything. and this was really early on right when I went to law school, and I didn't even choose to go to law school. I wanted to be an airline pilot, and I decided to go to law school, and one of those things where I said, you know what, I'm going to try for it, and I studied and I got in. Never stepped foot into a courthouse before law school, but I share that because
you
when
wanted
I
to be
got to law school,
well, you wanted to be a pilot, then what made you go to law school?
I was flying in a plane, a little Cessna, and I was next to my instructor, and the plane took like a sharp dive. We must have hit some kind of pocket, and I was face first with the San Francisco Bay, and we landed. And I changed my pants, and I went back, and I said, I'm not doing this ever again. I was done, but when I went to law school, I thought, and look, this was like how I was raised, was, if you're a doctor or a lawyer, and that was it. It was old school. And my parents meant very well, and I loved them to death.
Totally. They mean well.
But when I was, it was like, oh, if you're a doctor or a lawyer, like that was almost like a get out of jail free card, a pass where, doors open up, and they're gilded floors, and you were going to have the world at your hands, etc. And I fell for that in some way. And so when I started down that path, I had a real hard reality check when I started to fail. And when I started to fail, because I moved away from that resiliency, and I moved away from trying to learn and trying to, working really hard, to sitting on my laurels and just saying, you know what, I know more than you. And that wasn't the case. But I fell victim to that because I got comfortable. I got comfortable because I relied on what was drilled into me from a young age. And it didn't work. I got kicked in the teeth. It was hard. It was a rough lesson. And I bounced back from it. But it was a while before that ever happened.
Yeah.
So.
And I appreciate you sharing that.
Lesson learned.
Again, I've been kicked in the teeth so many times, and I feel like the more I know, the less I know. And so right now, for myself, where I am in my life career, this is what I tell myself every day, every single day. Grace, stay open-minded to the possibility you are closed-minded.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And that's how I roll.
Yeah.
And every day I learn something new. And even, I don't know if you could relate to this, even though I know, okay, this is how this has been for all of these years. This is how it is. And now I'm like, wow, you know what, Grace? No, that's not how it is. I think it's time to be open-minded to the possibility there's another way.
And it's so hard when you see somebody that hate's a strong word, but you're so jealous of, or there's an ego and you're driven. You're like, I know I could do better. I'm not gonna do what this person does. I'm gonna do something different. And I think you said something interesting about the more you know, the more you don't know, and that's true. That's exactly what happened to me. That's exactly what's happened to me before. Where even when I started my practice, there were things where I was like, you know what, do I know this? It's like a piece of paper. On the surface, I know it, but when you turn it onto the side, I only know maybe as much as that thin line of paper. And so for me, those were the eye-opening moments where I said, you know what, let me join bar associations. Let me talk to experts. Let me start networking, et cetera. And the more you start to find out, the more you start to dig in, you start to realize, wow, there's so much more. I'm peeling back the layers where I didn't realize this. I didn't know this, and all these nuances. And that's
so many nuances.
A lot.
Speaking of nuances, I love that you're creating an AI app for legal professionals. And right now, I mean, the buzzword is AI. It's everywhere. And there are so many people that associate fear with AI and others that are excited about it. How do you believe AI is going to help us as entrepreneurs expand our businesses as opposed to hinder our businesses?
When you look back at the Industrial Revolution and you look back at moments in in human history with regards to industrial revolution, the invention of the phone, the television, et cetera, all these moments in the last 150 years, almost 200 years, there hasn't been somebody who said, oh, wow, this is going to, revolutionize, replace, it's going to, and it should. There is a fear because there was a moment for a long time in medical and these professions, these highly regarded professions, that it was untouchable. It was untouchable because it was one of those where there isn't a technology in the world, there isn't something that's gonna and there isn't something that's gonna catch up with it. And the fear that people have of it taking over the job is the fear they brought on because they ignored it. The people that ignore change or don't keep tabs with it are the ones that will likely say, this is going to replace my job, this is going to do this. Wow. And I hear this in law and the future of law and artificial intelligence. And what technology is meant to do is to smash a limitation. If you go back to the 90s, remember when we walked into stores like Costco or Office Depot, and they sold those discs for TurboTax or QuickBooks, et cetera. Every bookkeeper in CPA was like, oh, it's going to be over for me. And the people that start buying it, myself included, you probably did too, start doing their taxes on it, started to realize, wow, I don't know what I'm doing. I thought this would replace a CPA. I thought this would replace a tax preparer. And it turns out it elevated their profession. It made people more aware of how important it was, how critical it was to have a professional with that professional judgment to be able to handle these your tax matters and filing income tax, et cetera. When I look at AI and I look at law, it's the same pivotal moment. We're at a pivotal moment in the legal profession, and for decades, law has been built around time-sensitive work, drafting, review, but AI is compressing all of that. And if we learn how to leverage AI in our practice, what used to take hours can now take minutes. Mm-hmm. Now, for the average person who needs a lawyer, when you talk about billable hour, the risk isn't worth it because you're like, it's too much, it's too expensive. And so many lawyers then are forced to say, well, I'll cut you a deal here, I'll reduce my rate here. And they're reduced to accepting a lower amount. And so they start to, rather than using tools or leveraging tools to help their practice, they won't accept the new normal. They won't because they're afraid it will replace them. But when you have that mindset, what you're missing out is the opportunity, and the opportunity is massive. It's massive. Lawyers can serve more clients, reduce costs, and focus on higher value thinking, strategy and judgment and advocacy, which AI cannot do. AI can't judge. They can't make a judgment call because AI doesn't understand, in the legal world, they don't understand the time series. It's not baked, doesn't think that way, right? So when you look at from how we can leverage AI as a tool, you start to see, wow, this could really help me file something really fast. This could really help me avoid errors, grammatical errors, mistakes. This could really help me escalate, because that's what our job primarily is, to advocate for the client. At the same time, our job is to do things, in a very expedited way, as fast as possible, but with quality work. And AI does that both for us. And if we leverage it. Now, there's a risk to it, right? The real risk is AI can produce outputs that don't sound right. And in our profession, that's not acceptable. That's unacceptable in our profession, the hallucinations you see, et cetera. And so, but folks who aren't lawyers that are leveraging AI are facing the same reality. And just like anything that's new, when the internet came out, et cetera, anything that's new, when you don't understand how to operate it, how to operate that tool, it can become your own demise. It can affect you later on and in your profession. So if you as a lawyer don't accept it and aren't working with it, then if you just start to pick it up and work with it and you don't understand the intricacies and the nuances, you are likely to fail and you will likely be in trouble and you will get your client in trouble. So the shift isn't just about AI. It's about us using it responsibly.
Yes.
And what I'm focused on, my task is really building tools and framework, having seen both technology and the law, that allows lawyers to leverage AI while maintaining confidentiality, compliance, and trust. Because at the end of the day, trust is the currency in our profession. That's why people come to us, because they trust us. That's why they come to a lawyer, they go to the court system. You can't figure out with the other party. So I'm going to go to a lawyer because I trust them. And we have to maintain that. We have to maintain that trust.
And thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you here at Real Talk. If you've been inspired by what you're hearing and you're ready to take things to the next level, I would be honored to work with you. If you're a leader or entrepreneur ready to soar, I offer one-on-one coaching to help you create a business and life of freedom that you are excited to wake up to. And if you're craving something more intimate, I offer a personal VIP day that includes deep dive coaching, a nature walk, and an early dinner. I promise you will leave just feeling rejuvenated. If this speaks to you, please reach out and let's do this together. You can find me at www.graceredman.com. Now, back to the program. Well, you brought up a good point, trust. Well, I want to go back to a few things. You talked about how I love how you shared the example of when TurboTax brought that disc, you could do your own taxes, but then when you try to do it, you realize you really do need the professional. And at that time, the CPAs were all nervous. And I know there are other examples of that. And with this also, like you said, it's going to open up opportunity for across industries to, again, be more, I know you said this before, be more hands-on with their client, because there's less time invested in the menial work, the research. And so not only that, but also it's going to help you, like you talked about earlier, dig deeper into the nuances. And into the layers. It's going to take time. I mean, it is scary. And there are going to be some, people who do lose their jobs. Then you talked about mindset and pivoting. And there's so many different industries that are created when new technology comes, to light.
The concern that I see with new technology coming to light is the over-reliance without judgment. It's when we start to rely on it. That's when we've said, okay, you win. I'm going to give up and I'm going to let Skynet, the Terminator reference, I'm going to let Skynet take over and I'm going to walk away. And that's just not, if you believe that, you're already done. You already, because it's here already. There's no, when's it going to hit us? It's here. And that's where the lawyer that's going to come out on top in the legal profession are the ones that will win for their client. The ones that will advocate the best will be the ones that combine technical fluency with strong legal reasoning and ethics. That's why I believe AI will never replace a lawyer. It won't replace lawyers unless you adapt. If you adapt to it, because that people are using this tool. I mean, WebMD. I used to have a joke. My doctor used to joke to me. He goes, I just want to understand, Robert, where'd you get your diagnosis from? Dr. Google or Dr. WebMD? Because I know doctors, I did that. I used to go WebMD. I'm like, what's this red thing on my chest? I had no idea what this is. And, all of a sudden, 16 symptoms would come out. I'd call my doctor freaking out. And it was like, dude, it's just a rash. But that's just it, is you're going to have a lot of, and it's like a shiny new object. You're going to have a lot of pro se clients. Clients are going to file cases on their own. I have a couple of them already who filed on their own, did it all wrong. And that's okay. And that's okay. That's okay.
Well, I think you bring up a great point. AI cannot take away the human connection, the energy. It can't see, I know a lot of my friends, like I talk to chat about the problem I'm going through. It's a good tool, but it's not going to take away the human connection, because us humans need connection and community. We need it more now than ever because we're so connected electronically.
Barnes and Noble, all these bookstores, everybody thought that they were going away. Barnes and Noble and these other stores pivoted. They changed. Now they're not just selling books. Now they have activities. Now they have coffee. They have what's it called? They have an environment. They're invoking that reading a book, the library feel, the coming together of knowledge and learning and understanding and seeing other people walk in there. So it's, Amazon's going to kill the book industry and kill it. You know what? Yes, the mom and pop books, et cetera, they didn't make it out. But you see Barnes and Noble and a lot of these stores come back. And why are they making a comeback? It's because people still want to have that connection with the book. They still want to read. And there was a time where, we were all excited. Wow, I could. When was the last time you read a book cover to cover on your phone? I can't do that. I can't.
Actually, believe it or not, I've been doing Kindle.
Yeah.
But after, it's hard on my eyes, so I rather have the book, one. And two, I like going into the bookstore.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I enjoy going to the bookstore, but that was another example of where, hey, it's gonna, this is gonna kill the bookstore industry, et cetera. And it altered it. It hasn't killed it.
For sure. Well, I feel like most industries have been changed, altered. I mean, I have the staffing firm, of the coaching. Both industries have been changed. It shifts. Yep. And over 30 years, I've seen it shift several times. And so as, professionals, it's just being flexible enough to make those shifts, to go with the changes, because things change. And there are businesses that have been affected, especially the mom pop, which means go and support them. Support the mom paws. So there is change across the board. And we like you said earlier, it's our mindset and how we see the change. Is it the end of the world, or is it taking us to a better place?
You know what I love about when there's technology shift, and you can go on LinkedIn, you see this. Everybody's an expert. I love this. Everybody writes a blog or an article about AI and about everything. All of a sudden, they're experts, and I see this on my feed. On Instagram on my feed, and I follow social media only because it's really helpful to me to understand what people are thinking and where they're getting their information from. Because it helps me to be a better lawyer. Why? When I read something, I'm thinking, okay, I'm reading this. This person's got a gajillion followers. They must have some reach on somebody, and people are thinking in a certain way. So I have to be ahead of the curve to know, okay, what's this person going to think? And Grace, they come into my office, and it's so predictable because I know this film. When they come in, when they walk in the door, and they come up with well, Robert, I heard that if I throw all my money into a trust, if I throw all my money into an LLC, if I do, this person here said if I do this, I'm protected. And when I review this, where it's coming from is these are folks that throw everything into a chat GPT or whatever, and it spits out what they want to hear. And now everybody's got an article saying that, this is the wave, this is what's going on, et cetera. And people are writing about something that hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened yet. People are writing about stuff that they're inventing the future. It's like that joke where it's like, hey, what's the best way to predict it? It's to invent it.
Ooh,
you see it, and it's ridiculous. And I think that is the fear mongering, the catastrophizing that is leading people to jump to these conclusions. Because I read an article just the other day, Big Law is facing mass layoffs, et cetera. Every company faces mass layoffs, and it has nothing to do with technology. It has everything to do with other factors, such as the economy, such as how their business is doing, et cetera. It has nothing to, but we like to tie things into anything that's new. Oh, this is new technology, and people are getting fired. There must be some corollary to this.
You know what? You're so right. You are so right. And the fear mongering, and I mean, we definitely are in a shift. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, of course we are. But
And
but,
it's perspective.
but AI has been around for a while. This isn't anything new.
No.
It just became commoditized, just like the internet. The internet was around since the 70s. In fact, earlier, but it didn't have that user interface that you saw. It's been around for a very long time. It just became mainstream when somebody decided to put a GUI right on the front screen so that you could click a button, find out where to go, and like, wow, look at this thing. It's been around for decades before.
You're totally right.
When you look at it, it's been around. So this is nothing new. But when they see something new and they're shiny, they go, wow, this is, and it'll lose its luster, and people will start to say, you know what, I've been so focused on chasing this that I forgot to learn and understand what change is happening. I forgot to take a step back and really understand what is changing. Why? Look at the data. Why are people's behaviors changing? When you understand that at its core, that's when you start trusting, your gut. You start relying on facts, on data. You start becoming more. You're not fearful anymore. You're not talking like, oh, I'm going to lose my job. I have friends who are looking for other jobs now. Why? Nothing's happened yet. And everybody's already freaking out. And that
many people are.
That just to tie back then, and when I was, had to do things on my own, pick up my own bootstraps. That when you have a grounded perspective, and you take that perspective about risk and responsibility in life, in school, and anything that you handle. There was a book by a former Navy SEAL, Jocko Willink. It was called Extreme Ownership. I loved that book. I thought it was a war story. It was actually about owning what you do.
Oh, I love that. I want to read it.
But it was like reading my life story, and without the heroism and blue star heroics. I mean, I was too chicken to go to the army. But when I read that book, I said, wow, yeah, taking ownership for your mistakes and not blaming others. This is completely me. But when you take that ownership and you start to become more in tune with change, and when you start seeing change, then you become more confident in saying, "Hey, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this."
Yes, I love that. Taking accountability and growing from our failure. I feel like our failures is what builds our confidence. Really, our challenges that we overcome.
For sure.
I wanted to ask you, because you talk about how chaotic, the fear mongering, the fear, the world's ending. How do you stay focused and grounded when we do have so much chaos going on around us all the time?
When I married my wife, we had nothing. We had nothing. I mean, when you look at the Excel spreadsheet, there's like columns A to Z. We were like in the double digit, like A, B, B, C, C columns. I mean, we were so far off the chart. It was crazy. I exaggerate, but I don't know any couple who has started out with like a war chest of money. I'm sure probably the same way with you. But for me, and what I'm tying back in was that at that moment, it felt like, okay, from the outside in, your world's collapsing. You made a big mistake. You married too soon. You started a family too soon with no money, etc. I've been in challenging situations worse than that. And I think it's that mindset that carried into everything about how to weigh risk and how to weigh the circumstances of those risks is what got me, is what is able to give me the clarity to keep moving forward. Because there were times where, look, I've had panic, anxiety attacks. I've sought help for it, because there's some things that could just break you. And I got to those points, but I sought help for it. And when I went through those motions, and it's totally okay to ask for help. I think 100%. People who don't are a fool, and they're fooling themselves.
Ooh, that's a good one. They're fooling themselves. Nothing
they're
wrong.
fooling themselves. They have this false identity, imposter syndrome, where they think they're connected and they're grounded and they're not, and their minds go elsewhere. And I came to that realization very young in life, very young. And I thought, and I learned from a lot of mistakes where I said, okay, this happened. Let me shift. Let me change. Let me take a deep breath. Let me figure out how we're going to get through this. And I put things in 3 buckets: what I know, what I can control, and what I don't know. And if I put those things in those 3 buckets, I could face just about any challenge, and the outcome could be different, but at least I'll make an educated and a good answer and lead myself down a good path than just assuming and putting things away and hoping things will be okay. That's never the case. I've never hoped for something it'll be okay. There are things you have to fight through. You just have to fight through them.
Yeah. I mean, like you said earlier, take accountability and keep moving.
Yeah. And not be so entitled.
You talked about that earlier, like you just said not be so entitled. And earlier you said, don't think you know everything, kind of humble yourself. What do you think is the difference between being humble and being confident? Like, how can you be confident and humble at the same time?
So it's a great question, because I met a young engineer. I was at a AI foundry talk in San Ramon last week, and I met a very smart young engineer, 23 years old, 23. But the way he spoke, the way he presented, his maturity and his acumen and everything, you would think this guy was in a boardroom meeting with investors and everything, and the way he carried himself. And I was confident in the problem that I'm solving, but I was humble enough to go up to him and say, hey, how did you figure this out? Because I'm facing this problem. For our generation, we were raised to respect the elder, right? But there was that entitlement that the elders had where it's like, hey, I'm older than you.
Right.
I know more than you, and I've been through this. Those days are gone. Now everybody's on a level playing field. Whether you're 20 or you're 50, everybody's on a level playing field. And I think that the right, wrong, or indifferent, but that flood of information we have on the internet, et cetera, has leveled the playing field for a lot of people. And so what keeps me humble is that what I know isn't like the lost Gnostic Gospels of the Bible. Like, I know something special that somebody else doesn't know.
I see what you're saying.
Go figure out what I know. It doesn't take a hell of a lot.
Right.
Just punch something in. And
the information age, everything is there.
Everything. So that's the humble part, is what somebody had information. Like when you went to a lawyer, or when you went to a psychologist, or when you went to somebody, a handyman, you wanted to change a light bulb, or you wanted to change a light socket in your house. Sorry, I'm rambling. You want to change a light socket in your house, a switch. 30 years ago, you had to call a handyman. Oh, I don't know what this black and white wire is. Now you go on YouTube and people are redesigning their entire house, drilling, taking down walls, putting up wings, all by themselves. And the birth of Home Depot happened, because now with the information age and those textbooks out there, everybody became an architect. Everybody became a home builder, till they decided, you know what? It's not worth it for me. The time isn't worth it. I'm going to hire a professional. But that's the humble part, where I thought, hey, I don't know anything special, but I do this so much that when people come to me, they come to me because they're like, hey, and nobody ever says, I got to go see my lawyer. Grace, nobody says, oh, I can't wait to go see Robert. I never had that, right? People,
I get it.
Yeah, they come in, I have to talk to you. And that's the part where people come, and that's just it. They're at their last resort. They've exhausted everything else. And now they come to me and they look for, and other attorneys, and they look for our judgment or our guidance, et cetera, things that in our practice we see every day, much like a doctor, much like a CPA, much like a therapist, et cetera. They're at that end. But what humbles me is that I don't walk around, I don't think, oh, you must be stupid or you must not know anything. That's why you're coming to me. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all. And so I think that's the difference. And you know, when I was very young, I graduated college. Yeah, I thought I was ready. I did. And I was humiliated. And then I was brought back down to earth. And
I love how you share that. And I appreciate that vulnerability sharing, like,
Grace, come on. You think there's people that walk around who haven't been humiliated? It's the ones that don't admit it. The ones that are just, kidding them.
I used to say my daily job is rejection.
Yeah, it's rejection.
I still say that. It still is.
So anyway, that's what keeps me humble is and learning for more is because I hope there are people out there that know more. I wish.
Gosh, absolutely. I make sure I get into rooms where people are smarter than me all the time. Like I'm I'm not dumb. I'm just saying, like I'm the least, that's how I learn.
No, but that's how I learn. That's how I learn. That's what keeps me hungry.
Yeah.
That's what keeps me humble. Keeps me reaching for the sky, right? And just, it keeps things open for me. Keeps opportunities open for me.
I love that. I can't believe that it's time up. I want to be respectful.
No, you keep going, please. Ask away.
This has been amazing. What is one last nugget of wisdom you'd like to leave our audience with?
You've heard this cliche, it's never too late to start something.
Amen.
But it's never too late to fix yourself. It's never too late to better yourself, whether mentally. It's never too late to call somebody you haven't spoken to in years. Yeah. It's never too late to mend a bridge. It's never too late to do things. And all the regrets that I've ever had have always come from my own myopic view of how I think I could solve a problem. And from that view, it burned more bridges and built more walls. And over time, by humbling and learning, I've been able to take down those walls and a lot more bridges. And look, if you can't visit a place if the bridge is burned. You can't go to a friend, you can't call somebody if that bridge is burned. It doesn't exist. So if the one thing I would say is if there's somebody you really wanted to call and there's somebody you haven't talked to in a long time, a friend, somebody that you had a bad relationship with, or you just didn't feel like you ended it right, reach out to them. There's every means possible: text, phone, email, pigeon carrier. I mean, there's anything you want. There's a guy in San Ramon that has a Falcon that actually does message carriers. Wow. Yeah, he does it for like a special price for like weddings or whatever. Like the Falcon will fly in and
that's super cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really, but it's a niche market. But that's what I believe is just, and reflecting on the past, I wouldn't want to correct what I've done because it got me to where I'm at.
Amen to that.
So
amen to that. Thank you so much for taking the time today. That was a fun conversation. It went by fast.
Yeah. And
we kind of touched on so many things, and I appreciate you bringing your wisdom and your energy.
Thank you.
And I'm really, it's been inspiring to witness your journey.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Grace. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful. And I look forward to, any feedback and, I'm always here.
We are going to share your information with our audience. Just let them know real quick where they can find you.
Yeah. So if they have a question, they could email me at robert@rjlg.law, rjlg.law, or 925-400-9440. Give me a call. That's my office line. Or visit my website, rjlg.law, or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect and talk to people.
Perfect. And we'll share all of those. And for those of you watching, listening, please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to bring you incredible guests like Robert. I appreciate you. And until next time, have an amazing, amazing day. And Robert, stay with me. Bye, all.